Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Moonward. Today, we have a special guest who is a Kabbalah teacher who will be speaking about topics that are very personal to me. Have you ever wondered why celebrities like Madonna, entrepreneurs, and people of high profiles are interested in Kabbalah? Today, Marcus is going to let us into the secrets of Kabbalah. Marcus, it's such an honor to have you here today.
Thank you very much for having me.
Just to kick things off, what is Kabbalah?
So it's the secrets of life. It's the secrets of life. And even though the first book was 4,000 years ago, the wisdom itself is life. It's creation. It's the purpose of life, the journey of life, and the way we teach it, as is the lineage of 4,000 years in the center. It's very practical. So it's literally about how to understand life, how to manifest things, how to change anything, and find meaning and purpose and success and happiness, all those good things.
Mm-hmm. And what is the Sefirot? Because I understand that this is the core of Kabbalah, no?
Yeah, the study of the Sefirot talk about the dimensions of the body and the soul. So most people talk about mind, body, soul as a wellness program. But really, the structure of life is quite interesting because everything is structured. Life has actually purpose. There are particular ways to get things done. And so the Sefirot represent all the dimensions that represent the mind, body, and soul connection.
Speaking about body-mind connection, what do you think is the way spirituality views family patterns?
Well, it's interesting because if you think about how brittle life is, most of us can just leave anything we want, anytime we want, for any reason we want. I could just walk out of here right now, right? And I could apologize or not, but ultimately I could. You're married, so you could walk, you could change clothes, you can change anything in life. But your family is quite interesting. You're stuck with them. You might not like your brother, but he is your brother for life. If you were married and it was horrible, you could leave that relationship, perhaps even for good reasons, and start a beautifully new relationship and really have that in your past. Your parents are your parents for life. Your siblings are your siblings for life. So spiritually, the family group has tremendous importance.
Mm-hmm. And how would you say that you could break like a pattern in that has been going on from a family lineage of many, many, many centuries even? How would you break that pattern?
That's a huge question.
Yeah.
And sometimes that is, in fact, the whole purpose of life. Some people are born just for singular things, which might be just that, some ancestral inherited belief system, which they have to change for the sake of their family. I think the first most important thing is to just identify what within yourself. If you change, everything changes. That forget about the reason why or the family possibility to that. Just to identify the fact there's one thing that you can identify what that one thing is, that one resistance to change, that one part of your own ego, where nothing is by coincidence. If you can identify within the craziness of your life, the one thing that seems to be the pivot and fulcrum where everything else will change on the back of that one thing. What is that one thing?
But that's really hard for many people, no?
It's extremely hard, and yet it's so simple at the same time. And we run classes and courses all over the world, clearly, and ultimately it's just a funnel. If you put enough data into the funnel, what's going to come out is the singular point of change that is your responsibility and no one else.
It's kind of the fact of if you ask someone to look at a movie of their life, and for the audience to say like, okay, it's clearly this,
Right.
this is clearly what you need to change,
Right.
because it's always easier for people to look at it to see it from the outside. But when we're living our own life, it's so hard to say like, okay, this is where it all comes from.
Yeah, it's quite interesting. We most people love watching trailers because you get a taste for the film. And if someone was making a trailer about your entire life, it's actually quite a difficult thing to do because your life is so multifaceted. There's so many things going on, so many things that seem good that perhaps aren't good, things that seem bad that actually are really great for you. And so what are the highlights of your life is not easy to extract. But were you to have some kind of a trailer to your entire life, if someone could put that 30-second or 6-second trailer together of your entire life, the point would be very, very clear. And not just for the point be clear, but the pain would make sense. The challenges would make sense. Those things that you thought were the worst of you are probably there on purpose to become the best of you. So the whole context changes, which is what's interesting.
Yeah. In my generation, and I even can notice it through my friends, through people around me, that our generation is just very scared of having kids, of being parents, because they have noticed how much effort, how much money can take, and how much work and time you have to invest in kids. And they've seen parents that maybe, they're carrying with some things that aren't even theirs, that comes from like a lineage. What do you think you would say to kids, to our generation, with regards to this?
I think, like a lot of things in life, things on the surface are very different to the things at the level of truth, deeper. And whereas you say, ostensibly, having a family, having kids might look like it's a huge expense and it's an insane effort, having done it and perhaps broken the illusion of that, there is nothing more fulfilling. There's nothing more fulfilling. And every single child comes spiritually with their blessing of wealth. So the expansion that child brings, because it has its moments, but the expansion that gives you, it's almost like the universe supports that expansion with more blessings, more sustenance, whatever is necessary to look after this responsibility you have. You're never probably going to meet anyone in life that you will love as unconditionally as a child you have. It is an absolute, it's a terrible thought to imagine that some people would never experience that, right? It's a scary thought that you might go through life having quite a fluctuating experience of love, where you fall in love and then things get tricky and perhaps you fall out of love. That doesn't happen with kids. It only gets bigger and bigger and deeper and more extraordinary. And the richness it gives you is something which is unparalleled.
Makes me think of, you were saying how you give so much love, and then there's more abundance in your life. No, it's kind of like how with every action, there's a reaction, no? So the more that you give love, the more kind of in the spiritual kind of universe, you're going to get even more kind of abundance. You're being more generous, you're being more loving. You remove yourself from the ego, no? Because once you have a child, you're the second person in your life, no?
Yeah. It's an interesting thought that to play through to kind of marriage and long-term relationships, because I think when you have a child, you know that you're so responsible and there's so much love there. You're giving so extraordinarily. It's your giving that actually extracts sparks of your soul to feel the unconditional love. And I think what happens in relationships, marital type relationships, is that that's how we will begin. You have this desire, this lust, this excitement, this inspiration, and you invest and you give, and therefore you feel so much love. And then once you close that deal, once marriage kicks in, once the person is always going to be despite whatever you do, and you begin to take it for granted, your giving stops. And once your giving stops, the feeling of love wanes.
But that's the problem.
And that's an interesting thing. And it's not that there's no love there. It's not that you've lost the love. It's that you've lost the giving and the investment to feel the love from.
And the gratitude, no?
Exactly.
Once you stop with the gratitude,
Yeah.
it's...
Yeah.
How do we heal the relationship with our parents once we accept that our parents were trying to do the best they could with the knowledge, their emotional knowledge that they had, with their traumas? What do you think are some tools that you being a Kabbalah teacher, you teach your students on how, forgiveness and love to our parents?
Yeah. It's a huge spiritual topic. The way the Kabbalists talk about this is quite extraordinary, in that the soul in the upper world, again, there's quite a difference in answering this to perhaps a more social answer, where culturally one could talk about, my parents did their best.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, in the level that they were at, they gave as much as they could. I think that's an inadequate answer. Spiritually, I think there's so much more to add. The way the Kabbalists talk about this is quite interesting, in that the soul, before it comes into this world, understands that it has a particular light to reveal. It knows it has a job to do. Now, all of us, in that sense, we have a job, we have a purpose, we have meaning to find from understanding what our purpose in life is. And by the evidence to find your purpose in life is sometimes through those pain points, because if you see where the universe has intervened and has really poked and pricked you, then sometimes that Hansel and Gretel path points exactly to your life purpose, which is interesting as well. The soul in the upper worlds has a job, and it knows it empirically. And then it has a very interesting choice, the Kabbalists say. It sits with the Creator. And it says, in the world of souls conceiving, who are your parents? Who would you like your parents to be? And the soul in the upper worlds says, them.
Pre-agreement.
That's an interesting idea,
Mm-hmm.
right? So what that means is that the soul chooses the parents, and the parents choose the soul.
So we chose our parents.
So we chose. Now, if you take that one step forward, the clear question is, why on earth did you choose your mother? Why on earth did you choose your father? Why did your mother choose you? And why did your father choose you? And they're four very separate questions that demand very profound individual answers. And most people can answer them superficially. Oh, because, she was loving and he was supportive. And no.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of those questions that
It's
you
the
want to
hardship.
sleep on for a week or two.
Mhm.
And I think, not to be too crude, when your bowels move, when you get like that kind of sudden shock answer, you're touching the beginning of the real reason. And so if you understand that you might upstairs have chosen your parents, the inadequate parents, the unloving parents, the abusing parents, the abandoning parents, the rejecting parents, the unsupportive parents, the not present parents, the alcoholic parents, the addictive parents, the whatever parents. If you understand that, that's where healing begins.
It's the lesson.
That's where it
Mhm.
begins, right? There's a famous, there's a student I taught many years ago who had a very, very unpleasant relationship with his father, and his father's passed away, and he has no qualms to share how much he hates his father still, even though his father's gone, but he hates still his father. And the guy himself is a very successful man, but he's very edgy. He's very rebellious. He's a bit of a naughty boy sometimes. He's got that kind of edge to him. And we spoke about it, and we realized that had he chosen the pitch perfect parents, the angels, the ones that everyone perhaps fantasizes and dreams about, if only, had he chosen those wonderful people, his nature is so rebellious,
It would have been bad.
he would have pushed the opposite direction. So the only reason he's not in jail right now, and he has an extraordinary life and great success, is because he had someone to push against that put him in the right side. And once he got that, he burst into tears and understood that actually the cause of much of his success was in fact his father.
This is something I think about a lot now that I've reached, an understanding. I had a very, very kind of abusive father, with his words. And I remember when I was younger and I would tell him, oh, I'm working in this, I've achieved this, and I'm, very happy doing this. And he would say to me, you owe it all to me. You owe it all to me. And I would say, you're the person that's been the hardest with me. Like, you've only made me, like, in a way, suffer, I would see it this way. And now I think about it and I'm like, I am so blessed that he was so hard on me, that it made me work so hard, and it made me into the person that I am today, And I can see that now. And it's the same with my sister. If my father wouldn't have been so hard, because he knew that he also needed that from his father to be able to achieve the things that he achieved. I don't know if it's the best way, and I think about it now today with my husband, like, when we plan to have kids, how are we going to teach our kids to work, the values of like work ethic, without that hardship. But hardship, there's a thin line, of being hard and being a bit abusive.
Yeah.
Yeah,
The Kabbalah says there has to be a constant balance between what's called the right side of things in terms of the sphirot, which is love and care and warmth, because there's great power to that as well. But at the same time, the left side is discipline. And how you balance those two and which to deploy when is the ultimate question. And when you were talking, I had a kind of hairstyle, I had a very special story about your father. There's a way the Kabbalists describe the ego, which is so unique and so extraordinary. I'm pretty obsessed by the ego. I have been for decades, and I love teaching about the ego, certainly because the Kabbalists, I think, are the deepest, most ancient descriptions of ego. It's mind-blowing how they describe this, and I'll share just one quick idea. If you track back through psychoanalysis and Freud, certainly, and Jung, both of whom had great Kabbalistic connections, and then even further through religious belief systems, and then back, Buddha, Aristotle, who talked a lot about ego as well. The way the Kabbalists describe ego is mind-blowing, and I don't say it blows up every other description, but certainly I think it usurps in terms of importance every other description. It says that it's a force, it's an energy. Your ego is an energy intelligence whose sole purpose is to challenge you until you're stronger than it. And then it releases. It's an amazing idea. It's not this kind of nasty troublemaker. It's a force of energy that knows that you can be greater and better than anything you currently think, and it will not let you not get there.
Wow, I always thought ego was fear.
Exactly. And in some sense, of course, an example of ego could be fear, right? And we can talk about that. But it's this amazing idea that it has that kind of nasty parent, school teacher element to it, exactly as you shared. Where in the moment you think this is horrible, I'm jealous because all my friends have got lovely fathers who just unadulterated, like unconditional love. But years later, you look back on and you think, I attribute all my success to the fact that you made me that strong. You made me that resilient. And so it's an extraordinary idea that you, this is one of the key core concepts of Kabbalah, is if you can identify within you what your ego is, that's that pivot where everything can change around you, and where your family line and ancestral lineage and personal life and all the factors of life, to get married, to find a soulmate, to make money, whatever it may be, they all pivot around that internal change.
Wow. Yeah, I feel like at the end of the day, we need to, regardless what father or mother you had, you have to be thankful because they gave birth to you, And my mother also, in her way, she gave me so many beautiful lessons. And at the end of the day, my father, the same, but from different ways, different methods.
I mean, again, there are Kabbalists that have written thousands of years of very interesting essays and concepts. Another one which you remind me of is there's a Kabbalist who says every single person has three creators. One is divine force. Second is your mother. And the third is your father. And if you haven't got an open channel to each of those three forces, something in your life will physically be blocked. Now, if you think about it, so many people have got either a mummy issue, a daddy issue, or a God issue. Right? A religious issue, a parent issue. The source of you, the energy of you, the flow of you, if you don't connect to and honor its source, then of course its effect is blocked.
Is it blocking your abundance, would you say?
100%. Now, does that mean if you have a really, really bad, toxic, awful parent, you need to be obviously close to them? The answer is clearly not. Clearly not. So you can have the strongest of boundaries physically, but your heart has to be clean. Your heart
No
has to be
hate.
clean. No hatred. Dignity, perhaps love,
Forgiveness.
forgiveness. Without doubt.
I see that you speak a lot about wealth and kind of money flow, and there's a very kind of spiritual way that Kabbalah sees this, and I think a lot of people are very interested why maybe some people work all their life and 24/7 don't barely see their family and they still never kind of make it, and then there's other people who have maybe Jupiter as their, the planet, like protecting them, no? Or like God is God's favorite, they would say. Why do you think is this?
Yeah, I think, again, if you look at things socially, you're going to get things very wrong. Because socially, there's massive disproportion of income across the world. There's insane amounts of poverty, and there's an insane select few of wealth. And you could argue that until the cows come home. Spiritually, of course, just it's a non-argument. Meaning, every single person is resourced to have everything they need in their life and to be ultimately rich. Now, rich doesn't just mean money. Rich means rich in physical money, yes, but also time. Love, to be rich in love. Most people are poor. You could be wealthy financially and very poor in love. Rich physically in terms of health. And spiritually in terms of spiritual and mental health as well, right? So to be rich in each of those 5 areas, every single person has at their fingertips. Now, does it mean that every single person needs an account, a bank account of £1 billion? Clearly not. That's all ego. That's unnecessary. But to have everything you need, absolutely yes. And the problem I think most people fall into is that they have this external view of comparison, right? What the next door neighbor has, what that person on social media has, what that celebrity has. And so that becomes the comparison, which creates great lack, which is an advertising dream, right? Because most advertising picks on lack, makes you feel lack, comparison, and all the rest of it, fear, insecurity, and so on. Lack. So people end up just praying and wanting and wishing for things that aren't necessarily theirs.
To have, no?
Right, 100%. Think about the social media world. Everyone almost lives a fantasy life in terms of what they think they deserve, who they think they're compatible with, the relationships they think they have. It's fantasy land. Fantasy life, fantasy men, fantasy women. It's not real, right? And so we get obsessive about things that aren't real. And so you lose your discipline, you lose your values, you lose your capacity to earn and elevate your ability to receive those things. You cannot wish and want for better things alone, because what you're doing energetically is you're trying to pull on a very high level frequency energy into a low level vessel. A low level vessel of stagnation, of laziness, of lack, complaint, right? And you're wishing for this high energy light to squeeze into your low level vessel. It just doesn't work like that, right? What you have to do is lift and expand your capacity to receive. And then as you elevate yourself, your capacity to earn more, receive more, be more fortunate, whatever you want to call it, changes entirely. And so that discipline, those values, that workability is where you win, and you cannot lose if you're elevating and changing and working and lifting your own consciousness. You cannot lose, because the level of energy you can pull into your life, be it love, be it relationship, be it sustenance, anything, it all changes.
So the first thing you need to do is change yourself without wanting, a big change in your life, without taking any step, any action.
Yeah, and knowing what to change and what to start with is the key, right? And that seems quite daunting, but it's so simple. It's so simple. If you we run Kabbalah 1 classes 24/7 almost, and it's extraordinary to me still, and I've been teaching for almost 30 years, that within a few weeks, people have nailed what they need to change. Within 10 weeks, which is the first course, which is 10 hours of studying ultimately, 10 hours, I mean, that's half a day, not even half a day. Every single person sits in the table after 10 weeks, 10 hours, and shares an absolute miracle story.
Wow.
And so it is quite daunting because life is seemingly a lot. But actually, when you drill down through challenges, through reactions, through resistance to change, to find the ego, and that's evidenced, then to know what to change and how to change becomes almost obvious. And you never lose that. Something you'll never lose, whatever you do in life.
Learning to focus on the good, no? I think, as you say, people are just so focused on the other person, the wrong things, like, focusing on your path and, finding your purpose. I think that's just very hard nowadays for a lot of people, to actually find their true purpose. People are stuck in jobs that they don't enjoy, in lives that they don't enjoy, relationships that they don't enjoy just because of comfort and fear, of taking the step and comparison of other people's lives just because, they started maybe 10 years ago and they're just complaining that they are not there yet.
Yeah. I mean, that victim gene clearly, the Kabbalah talks about the world cause and effect, which means the seeds that you plant, the consciousness you plant, the love that you plant, the actions, the words, the thoughts, every day you plant, they manifest. It's a crazy idea. You have 100,000 thoughts a day, they're manifesting things in your life. Right? I mean, think about your health. People find disease from yes, there's of course genetic predisposition where you just might have propensity towards something, but there's also chemical environmental influence. But the majority of illness also comes from your thoughts, your consciousness, right? You can think yourself into illness.
100%.
And so think about everything you're planting every day. To take some responsibility of that is where everything can change. But that cause and effect is empirical, yeah.
Yeah, and the more, thinking about neuroscience here, but the more that you think about a thought, the easier it is for your brain to continuously think about it.
Right.
So the more you think about it, the more you will think about it on a daily basis. That's why negative people will have one negative thought, and because their brain's just so used to just linking it with the next negative thought, they're just on a cycle. Obviously, I know that it's hard to break that and to start thinking positive, but nothing is impossible. Like you said, people will go to your courses for 10 hours and they're already having beautiful experiences.
There's something my teacher, the Rabbi, said. He said, "What is consciousness?" He said, "It's the thoughts you believe in," which is a really interesting idea. In other words, the ego becomes this lie that you believe in, and it becomes your truth. You believe you cannot. You believe you haven't got a chance. You believe that you're not good enough. You believe that you're too this, too that, not enough. Yes. You start to believe the truth. And so the illusion of happiness, the illusion of protection, the illusion of success is this cloud that you live in based on the fact you've just fed the ego. And if you start to see through it, right, because that belief system, which is, I have no value. What's the point of me? I'm unlovable. I don't belong. All these very common belief systems. If you believe in that too much,
they're made up in your head.
It's made up in your head. It might have been evidenced by something that you've wrongly perceived.
And you hold on to it.
And you hold on to it, exactly. Right? You hold on to it. And because that's the thing, the ego gives you a sugar of some illusion. For example, some people think it's safer to be alone. And so that's my protection because they have been hurt in a relationship. So imagine you've been hurt. I mean, who hasn't been hurt in a relationship, right? We all have. But then if you lock yourself down under the banner of this is much safer, for that short-term period, it will be very fulfilling to feel safe. So that lie that you're safe, keeping every single person at bay, looks very convincing to begin with. But eventually, of course, if you keep everyone out, you're going to be lonely. And at some point, you'll feel that and you'll want to open the drawbridge. And it will be a great conflict here, right? Because I'm safer alone. So believing in those thoughts is evidenced by something which is really concrete. I was hurt. And the ego has spun that so convincingly that now your thoughts just naturally roll down that track that you've created,
Yes.
which is just, it's safe to be alone. So now your soul is so powerful, the subconscious so powerful. That's often what keeps people away. So I find people come to the Kabbalah, I want a soulmate, I want a relationship, I want true love. Great. How much do you want that? Oh, I want it. How sure are you that you want? Oh, I'm 100% sure. You sure about? I'm 100% sure that I'm 100% sure. But within 2 classes, they've realized that they've been repelling,
Sabotaging
themselves because something in them wants to be safer than have a relationship at risk.
Yeah, it's like your inner child. Once you're hurt, it's like they're trying to protect you, but in reality, you're just isolating yourself from your purpose, no, or like that your happiest life or the happiest version of yourself. So at the end of the day, it's like there's no one else but yourself to blame about
100%.
anything in your life.
And not just blame, but to be responsible. For miracles. Because if you can find that thing within you, as you say, to blame or to take accountability for, that's the cause of the miracle. That's the cause of the breakthrough. That's what's so exciting about working in the Kabbalah Center, is that you're only one action or one movement away from a miracle.
One decision, no?
One decision. But you have to identify clearly the depth. And it is deep, because the soul and the consciousness runs very deep. But if you can identify that change becomes so exciting.
You're one step away from the life of your dreams.
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
I wanted to ask one last question, maybe more. But what is the biggest misconception of success?
It's a good question. I think anything that is externally defined as successful is the greatest dangerous misconception of success. In other words, and there's a lot we can talk about here, but the ego is more likely to throw you a ton of success, to keep you away from your real purpose in life, than have you see your true meaning. In other words, it's like giving a dog a bone. The negative side can give you so many shiny things to keep you satiated by, that you miss the big picture in your obsession with it. And I find that if you have as a metric the only success that matters, and I mean this very literally, the only success that matters is internal success. You build yourself inside out. If you focus on that alone, you will become so solid inside that it will manifest external success that's great for you, perfect for you, that is 100% yours. It's not going to be boom bust. You're going to attract it well. You're going to connect it with joy. Most people have a lot, they can't even enjoy it. It won't come with side effects, and you'll be given the most spiritual gift, which is you can protect what you've been given. Most people can go get, you work hard enough, you can go get, but to keep what you have, that's a spiritual gift.
The other day I was watching the news, and I saw a kid who asked the Pope just a simple question of,
¿Por qué hay personas que les pasan cosas malas y a otros no?
why do so many bad things happen to good people? What would you answer from a Kabbalah perspective?
It's two things. I'll tell you a story first of all, and then it'll help, I think, with the second answer. So there was a story of a student, a very strong student to a Kabbalist. And as his teacher was leaving, the teacher promised the student that he will always be with them. And whatever happens, any miracle the student needs, he will always come and give that miracle. And eventually the teacher passed away, and the student became a teacher himself and began teaching. And eventually he attracted some person that had this horror story with some family member, and please, I need a miracle type thing. And so what did the student do? The new teacher, he meditated in the upper worlds, asked for his teacher to come to him to say, remember, you told me that you'll be there for me. I need now. I'm calling your credit in. I need now. Please perform this miracle for this person. And the teacher in the upper worlds told him, no. So the student looked at him and said, but you promised me. And again, the word of a Kabbalist is very sacred, right? What do you mean no? What do you mean no? So the teacher said, when I was in the physical world, of course, I will do anything for you. But in the upper worlds now, I see what's this person going through. I see their journey with their transformation, that this is awakening. I see the fruits that will come from that transformation. I see the benefits to their life and countless other people's lives in their family if they can get through this. I cannot deny all those miracles and fruits to this person and their entire family just by satiating this miracle that you want. Now, that's an interesting idea because it gives context on what does it mean when we're going through pain and suffering. The Kabbalist answer from the light's point of view, from the divine point of view, there is nothing but giving, miracles, love, unconditional energy, positivity every single day, all day. It is our capacity to remove ourselves from that light. And that separation is where the negative side can play. So our decision to disconnect from the soul, from the spiritual purpose of things, from the light, is permission for the negative side to play with us. We feed the negative side. Again, it's almost logical. Think about it. How many times a day do you act from a place of irresponsibility or ego, or not chasing every single capacity of opportunity that you see in front of you with all the resource you have? Most of us live at 10, 20% of our lives every single day, which means what? 80, 90% negativity every day we're feeding. Aggregate that with 8 billion people, there's chaos in the world. It's nothing to do with the divine. It's the fact that all of us have made such a separation from that light that the negative force is rampant. What is the great thing about spiritual work, about working Kabbalah 1, even 10 hours, is that you get to connect straight back and that line starts to dematerialize all the chaos immediately.
That's beautiful. If everyone listening remember...
What did the Pope answer, by the way? What did the Pope answer? Just out of
nothing.
interest.
He didn't answer anything.
Okay.
So I wanted to
He hasn't
hear...
taken Kabbalah 1 yet.
So basically, it was just a kind of a ceremony. Kids were asking him from school, were asking him questions, and he was just listening and nodding.
Beautiful question. I especially, we teach kids in schools and community centers and gang territories and all sorts all over the world. The miracles that they see, the lessons they get, they're so extraordinary in how they embrace change, much easier than perhaps many of us, where we're so stuck in our ways, we're so defined and identified by a certain look, feel, path, and so on. When you teach kids, you have the most extraordinary conversations with them.
Yeah, their questions are so pure.
Absolutely.
No, it comes from absolute, like a white, a blank paper.
Yeah.
There's no bad, there's no evil, so it's nice. They bring a lot of light. Marcus, if everyone listening remember one thing tomorrow morning, what would you want it to be about this conversation?
Can I answer 2 things?
Of course.
I mean, one thing shameless and one thing pure. The shameless thing, I would wish everyone knows where in the world the next Kabbalah 1 course begins. Right? The shameless answer. Because again, if thousands, millions more people lived by this consciousness, all the chaos in the world, all the symptoms of chaos in the world are less. Fact. Right? And so, we were talking about kids before. There was a kid I was teaching in a class who I asked him, how was your day? And he said, had a horrible day. Went to school, was bullied badly. The teachers were all over me. Came back, mum tried to hit me, ran upstairs with so much anger, threw my homework books on the floor with so much anger. And then I realized the only enemy was my anger. And so I picked up my homework and did it with excitement. Right? Now that's an 8-year-old boy, 6 months of study, one conscious moment. Imagine if that consciousness was in every boardroom, every government, every parliament, every school, every home. It matters.
It would
I mean,
change
this
it.
is a nice conversation, but it matters. It really matters. And so, you know, that would be my wish. People can take a lesson. It would be about 100% responsibility, not from heaviness. You know, people are burdened as it is. Another thing to take responsibility. No, to the contrary. When you take 100% responsibility, everything lightens.
Mm-hmm.
The problem of not taking responsibility is everything's heavy. The second you take 100% responsibility, pain, suffering,
It's lighter. Everything's lighter.
everything's lighter. And so you pierce that veil, light comes down, miracle happens, and life begins.
And the vessel gets fuller.
Yeah.
Marcus, how can someone sign up to your course?
Well, Instagram is I am Marcus Weston.
Mm-hmm.
And on my Instagram page, there's Linktree with all the courses and classes that are going on.
We'll put it down here. I'll put it down here. But thank you so much for this conversation.
Thank you.
It was beautiful. So interesting. And thanks for coming.
My pleasure. Thank
I
you
hope
very much.
a lot of people go to Kabbalah, join your course, and we keep making the world a little bit better.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you guys for watching. And if you like these topics, please don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment. This way I will know that you're enjoying the channel and I will continue making more and more videos for you. And I'll see you in the next episode.